Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fandalorian Club. It is Apocalypse Movies and our Star Wars review show here on the channel. My name is Jake Berlin, a.k.a. Qui-Gon Jake. I am here today to review the latest episode of The Bad Batch titled The Outpost, Episode 12. There is the camera. I always forget to look at the camera. I'm looking at whoever's on screen with me down here. Camera is up here. So I will do my best to kind of go back and forth as I look on the screen here. Look, episode 12, The Outpost. We are coming down to the wire when we are talking about season 2 of The Bad Batch. There are only a few episodes left. We have a double part finale that will take place in just a few weeks. And of course, because they obviously want the Mandalorian to reside on its own a little bit, which is totally understandable. And after last week, we talked about it when we got the big episode with the Batch and the Zillo Beast. It definitely continues the trend of intense, serious meant episodes. And we don't get the Batch in this episode. We finally get to catch back up with Crosshair and see what he is doing and dealing with. The last time we saw him, he was basically pushed into another squad. Cody left. Still haven't heard from Cody yet, but I'm sure that there's a chance in seeing him in the future. And we get to see Crosshair joining a new squad and led by a new lieutenant, Lieutenant Nolan. We meet him for the first time in this episode, and continuing the trend of ultimate D-bag Imperial officers, I will say. I'm not going to say anything too mean, but man, they are doing a great job of setting up some great antagonists for the characters that we follow during this series. And it's funny, I've been so adamant against Crosshair the entire time we've seen him this season, especially at the end of last season. He hasn't done some good things. Obviously, he followed the Empire, and he thought that was right, and that's totally fair. I don't know what it is, but I have like eyelashes that are just hanging here. But yeah, so we get to catch back up with Crosshair, and we get a very different type of story for this character. I'm not saying that he's redeemed just as of yet, but he is well on his way because of what happened at the end of the episode. So basically, the storyline of the episode is that they're going on a mission, and clearly this lieutenant has no fondness for clones. He hates everything about the clones. Clearly, the very beginning of the episode, we see a group of clones sent off to retirement. They're kind of, firing against it. They don't really want to do it. They're soldiers, etc. We've seen that bit before a little bit, but they extend it. And then we see the Lieutenant Nolan come in, introduce himself to Crosshair, and kind of, just scoff at the clones that are part of the squad. So we get to the Outpost, and Outpost has not been touched for a while. They're on a remote world. It's snowy. It's cold. Equipment's not working. We meet a clone named Mayday, another great individual episode clone that we have met this season, and kind of continuing the trend for even the Clone Wars as well. Mayday, what is great. First of all, great designed clone. As far as what his armor looks like because of what he's been dealing with the climate, how long he's been there. He's got the beard going on. Great clone named Mayday that I wish we would see more of. But obviously, if you have seen the episode, which hopefully you have, because these are spoiler reviews here, Mayday is not making it out of the episode, which is super unfortunate. But Mayday plays a big part in the future of Crosshair, which is super important. So look, we get to this outpost, and the clones that are there are essentially guided to guard cargo, something that's in cases. We don't know what it is, but that is their ultimate goal. And the cargo is stolen by bandits. They've had bandits kind of raid the outpost before, but they get in while they are there. They steal some cargo, and Lieutenant Nolan sends Crosshair and Mayday after the cargo. So the episode is essentially about them. It's a rescue mission for some cargo. And so we get to meet some locals who are not too friendly. Friendly in the sense of, we're obviously viewing Crosshair and Mayday as the protagonists in the episodes. Whether or not they actually are friendly, won't know. But just from this point of view, they are the enemies in this sense. There's some really, really cool action between the characters, some gunfire. Crosshair does some Crosshair things. We get a moment where Crosshair actually steps on a landmine. And I don't know if it's called a landmine. I know there's a terminology in Star Wars, so I apologize for missing it. But Mayday does his job and does his little thing and disarms the mine and saves Crosshair essentially, which is a super cool little moment there. Um, you know, excuse me. Mayday tries to pick the brain about Crosshair as they're stepping there, trying to get a distraction for what's going on. Crosshair won't fall into it right away, but eventually kind of opens up about the squad that he was with and what happened with the clones and kind of where he was a part of. Because look, ever since he left, even with the Bad Batch, Crosshair was never really one to talk about his emotions, I guess is what we could say. Very reserved, very quiet, snarky comments, kind of just a subdued attitude. And Mayday got him just to open up a tad bit, which is a big deal, obviously. And excuse me, it's been quite a long day. I apologize for the yawning. I think I did this last week too. Wednesdays are tough. I'll be honest. Wednesdays are a little tough. They're very, very long days. Very long days with work and what's going on. So anyway, back to it. I love that. We haven't seen much of Crosshair this episode or this season. We saw him in one episode before, another Crosshair focused episode. And I love that, even though his story isn't front and center, they are doing their best to, when they have the time with him, really take advantage of that time. And this episode specifically, even in the small moments like the mine, Mayday kind of picking his brain a little bit, opening up a little bit. He goes on this solo adventure with this character. And then the avalanche that eventually happens in the episode, obviously because of their doing and what's going on, but they get caught in an avalanche. And this is ultimately what kind of results in Mayday's death. It's kind of the beginnings of it all. Crosshair, most of the time, maybe, most of the time would leave whoever behind. Squad, maybe not clones per se, obviously because they're brothers, right? But other soldiers, characters that he might have met, someone that doesn't really mean a lot to him. But because it's a clone and he kind of connected with that clone, he goes back for him and he tries to rescue him and he pulls him from the snow. He carries him back to base. And then we get that moment at the end of the episode where Nolan basically says, he served his purpose. Sorry, I'm not helping. And in this sense, we know just from the short times of knowing this character that Nolan has no love for these clones. Like, if he had a choice, he'd wipe them from the face of the earth, clearly. And so, of course, he's not going to save a clone and in a situation where it's wasting medicine or supplies or whatever. And let's also kind of retract a little bit and talk about the cargo that they were sent after saving. When they do blow up the cave that the natives are hanging out in, the cargo is kind of released, the boxes are opened, and they see that it's basically just armor, supplies, everything that those clones who were living on the outpost would have needed, but they were stormtrooper armor, not clone armor. And so, as Mayday says, weapons and armor for their new army. I don't know if that's the exact verbiage, but that's basically what he says. And so they're already kind of ticked off. We know in this point of the galaxy, the Imperials are basically trying to push the clones out. They're putting in orders and trying to do things in the Senate. So everything is playing around this, which I love. I love seeing that perspective from every end. It could be from the Bad Batch end. It could be from a Senator end. It could be from this clone end, which we've seen this entire season. We've seen all those perspectives in this season, which is great. And so, fast forwarding to the end of the episode, Nolan says, hey, sucks to suck, basically. He served his purpose. He did what he needed to, but I'm not saving him. And Crosshair wants no part of that. Mayday, unfortunately, passes. And that triggers something in Crosshair. I don't know if it was what was in his mind the entire time, but it triggers something in Crosshair that makes him shoot Nolan and kill Nolan. And not in his back or anything, but he makes him turn around and shoots him in his face, which I love that moment. Most people or most characters, we would have seen a story point where they just would have pulled the gun out and shoot the character, right? Shot the character. I love that Crosshair said, hey, or Lieutenant. He said, Lieutenant. And he shoots him in the chest, point blank, eye to eye, right? I love that moment. Great moment. And so we see Crosshair pass out. He's being surrounded by either clones or soldiers. He wakes up. in what looks like Mount Tantus. And it looks like the character from last week, the lead cloner, if you will. And I'm always forgetting his name. I apologize. I don't know. I couldn't remember his name last week, and now I can't remember his name again. We don't meet him, but we meet his assistant who is overseeing Crosshair, and uh, it looks like they're about to do some experiments on him. Find out what makes him tick, essentially. We know that he and the rest of the Bad Batch, Clone Force 99, are special. They have abilities. They're a little bit deformed, but it makes them great soldiers, and they use that to their strength. And now it looks like the Imperials want to know what makes him tick, why that's happening, or possibly find a way to make him fall into line again. So I'm very curious on where it goes. Uh, regarding last week and the Bad Batch and kind of what they found out about the Zilla Beast and the cloning, it puts them on a path to Tantus. And with Crosshair being there by the end of the season, it's very plausible that they meet in the middle and we see them reunite. Because of what Crosshair just did to an Imperial officer, he clearly will not get out alive. And I'm not going to say he's 100% back on track, but it definitely feels and looks like he's on the track to reside back with the Bad Batch, return to them, maybe not be fully redeemed, but on the path to being redeemed. So I'm very curious on what happens in the next few episodes. We only have a couple left. But it definitely looks like it's now set up for them to meet finally in season 2. We have not seen them once together in season 2. They've been separated for quite some time. And now that Crosshair looks to be at Mount Tantus, or at least on his way to Mount Tantus, I have no doubt the Bad Batch is going to be there. I said it last week. I think the finale is going to take place there. It just makes sense. It seems like even though it hasn't been a big part of the season so far, that's kind of what the main storyline is about. And so it would just make sense for the finale to take place there. And now that Crosshair is there, it's going to be very interesting. I think at the beginning, at the start of it all, it'll very much be a situation where they come across him and they're helping each other to survive, not because they want to. But it puts Crosshair back in a situation where he could possibly try to redeem himself and do what he can to get back in good graces with Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, and Omega. So I'm very curious on how this all plays out. I think it's setting up to be a very, very good last couple of episodes. We're in the home stretch and everything is kind of connecting. We're seeing the dots align, and we've been wondering all season long when it would take place. It took place a little bit later than I would have wanted, but I'm loving everything that they are doing. I think it's being set up again to be something very, very good. And I think the Bad Batch at this moment in time, not just recently, but this whole season, has done some very special, great things. I think this season has been fantastic. They have told some very good stories, and I'm excited to see how it all ends. I would love to see more of this. Obviously, I have to not go too far into that until I see the very end, but I think it's going to end with something very big and then setting up something very, very interesting for season 3. Hopefully, we can get a season 3. Either way, I'm super happy with what's happening right now. I think a Crosshair-centric episode was very much needed. It would have been weird to throw him in with other characters and not let his story flesh out as much as the others because we have not seen him as much. So I'm very happy that the story was very much just him and some other characters that he was kind of surrounded with, ultimately ending with him on his way to possibly meet up with Bad Batch again. So that is going to be my review of episode 12, The Outpost, for the Bad Batch season 2. Make sure you guys are heading down in the comments and conversing with me. I would love to hear from you guys. Not just this episode, but the entire season. If you guys have some theories on what's going to happen, is it going to end in Mount Tantus? Are they going to meet back up, or is it going to end on a cliffhanger? Is something going to happen to another Bad Batch character that possibly Crosshair has involvement with? I'm very curious. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys again. Always looking to interact with our viewers on the channel. So, and of course, we would really appreciate, of course, you don't have to, but we would really appreciate it if you did hit that thumbs up if you like the video. And if you want to see more just like this, hit that subscribe button. Follow us along here on Apocalypse as we adventure down the road of movie podcasting. So this, of course, falls in the television side, but it's all one big entity, really. So join us here on Apocalypse each and every week. We really appreciate you all. for joining me today. I appreciate it. Brian will be back next week. I'm pretty sure I said that last week, but Brian was in student-teacher conferences all week long. He's incredibly busy, so he was not able to jump on this review with me, but he will be back next week, and especially for the last couple of episodes. I got to have someone to talk to with that stuff. It's weird talking by myself about this, so I want to have someone to talk with. And if Brian doesn't show up, I'm going to drag someone off the street to do it with me because I need a partner in crime in this. So again, my name is Jake Berlin, aka Qui-Gon Jake. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all over the socials. Of course, follow Apocalypse Movies as well, all up there right above me. We appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye, guys.